We have a really fascinating stack of documents for this deep dive. We're going back in time to what a lot of historians call the mid-century nutritional crisis. It's the 1950s, and American men are having heart attacks at these absolutely terrifying rates.
And the medical establishment was really scrambling for an answer. Looking at the sources, they basically had it narrowed down to two main suspects.
A binary choice, really.
It was. In one corner, you had the scientist Ansel Keys, and he was pushing what he called the lipid hypothesis.
So that's the idea that saturated fat and cholesterol clogs your arteries.
Exactly. And then in the other corner, there was John Yudkin. He had the carbohydrate hypothesis, arguing that no, sugar is the real villain here.
Because of how it messes with insulin and triglycerides.
Right. And you have to understand the stakes were just astronomical. This wasn't some quiet academic debate.
Not at all. If Yudkin was right, the entire sugar industry could be ruined.
But if Keys was right, well, then sugar could be marketed as a heart-healthy food because it's fat-free.
Which brings us to the core of what we're looking at today. We're not just seeing how the Sugar Research Foundation, or the SRF, watched this unfold.
No. We're looking at the receipts that show they pretty much bought the outcome they wanted.
It is literally a paper trail. And it all seems to start with this one guy, John Hickson. He was the VP of the SRF.
And in 1965, he could see the science was starting to turn against sugar. So he didn't, hire a PR firm. He hired Harvard.
Specifically, two of the biggest names in nutrition science at the time, Frederick Stare and D. Mark Hegstad.
And he got them for what seems like a surprisingly low price. The documents show this payment of $6,500 for something called Project 226.
Which, adjusted for inflation, is what, about $50,000 today?
Roughly, yeah. And for that money, the SRF didn't just ask for a study. They basically dictated the conclusion from the outset.
They commissioned a literature review that was specifically designed to dismantle the scientific case against sugar.
And the result was this 1967 review, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, a very prestigious journal.
Reading through it, it's just a masterclass in what you could call strategic skepticism.
That's the perfect way to put it. When the authors looked at studies that made sugar look bad, they demanded these impossible standards of proof. They nitpicked everything.
But when they looked at studies blaming fat,
they just accepted the data, uncritically, even when the evidence was pretty flimsy.
And I wasn't just cherry-picking. They actually changed the rules of the game. This is where the Hegstad equation comes into play.
Right. This was the real scientific sleight of hand. They pushed this idea that heart health was all about one thing, total serum cholesterol.
And total cholesterol reacts mostly to fat in your diet.
Exactly. It completely ignores triglycerides. Those are the fats in your blood that just skyrocket when you eat a lot of sugar. By making cholesterol the only thing that mattered, they just narrowed the scientific aperture.
So if you're only looking for the effects of fat, you'll never see the problem with sugar.
And of course, nowhere in that entire review did they mention that the sugar industry paid for the whole thing.
Wow. But that was just about spinning the science that was already out there. The next document we have for Project 259, that's much darker.
It is. This is about burying new science.
So this is the late 60s. The industry funded another study, this time on rats, to see how sugar affected their bodies.
And the results were, for them, a complete catastrophe. The sugar-fed rats had incredibly high triglycerides, but that wasn't the worst part.
No. Their urine showed high levels of an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase,
which is a known marker linked to bladder cancer. So suddenly, sugar wasn't just a heart risk. It was a potential carcinogen.
And the industry's reaction?
It was immediate. They didn't publish it. They didn't debate it. They cut the funding, terminated the project, and locked the data away.
The internal memos from Hickson are chilling. He described the project's scientific value as nil.
Of course. A study that hurts your bottom line has no value. And the tragedy is, this didn't just stay buried in a file cabinet.
Hegstad, the same guy from the Harvard Review, the guy on the SRS payroll, he went on to help write the official 1977 dietary goals for the U.S. government.
That's the famous McGovern report. And that report is what cemented the low-fat dogma into public policy for decades.
Which leads directly to the SnackWell effect in the 90s. Everyone eating boxes of fat-free, high-sugar cookies, thinking they were making a healthy choice.
And you can see it in the public health data. In 1960, before this all started, the U.S. obesity rate was about 13%.
By 2017, it was over 42%. It tripled. We swapped fat for sugar, And as a country, we just got sicker.
And you can see this exact playbook being run again more recently. Think about 2014 with Coca-Cola.
Right, that they funded that group, the Global Energy Balance Network.
And what was their goal? To flood the conversation with research saying obesity isn't about drinking soda, it's just that people don't exercise enough. It's the same tactic.
It does seem like the tide is finally turning, though. Looking at the new draft guidelines for 2025-2030.
It really is. We're finally seeing an official recommendation for 0 added sugar for kids under 10 and really strict limits for adults. It's a huge change.
So when you boil it all down, this whole story isn't just about a few bad studies.
No, it was a coherent, multi-decade, and very successful business strategy to completely redefine the word healthy.
And it worked for half a century. So here's the thought to leave you with. If the scientific foundation of our entire modern diet was bought and paid for with just $6,500 back in 1967, how many of the independent studies you read about today are really just marketing campaigns in disguise?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving in with us.